I was actually very confused. MSMEs, metals, West Asia crisis. So I sat on it. I didn't reply. uh, then a few days ago, Mr. Nair came, and again I asked him, what is the topic of this seminar? Why are you inviting me? I said, so he said, you speak on anything. Okay, I said, okay. Now I know that Dr. Charan Singh has a great interest in MSME. So I thought I would say something about Viksit Bharat and kind of the role and approach of MSME. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Okay. And I refer to your name, you were absent here. Anyway. If the seminar is about something completely different, I'm sorry. That's not my fault. So let me start by talking about Viksit Bharat. And the reason why I'm doing it actually is probably the first time IIT very well. I used to come here every month, more or less, in this room also. So I thought I'll take the opportunity to talk about this a little bit with the IIT people in IIT. So let me start with, I spent a lot of time in the Planning Commission. That was my first job in government. So I think it's very important for the context, which I don't think is still widely known to the intellectuals of IIT. So that's why I picked this topic. So the Planning Commission was replaced by NITI Aayog. And the idea was several-fold, but one of the key differences is that there is no centralized national planning. That's what the Planning Commission used to do. And you had a plan, you called in all the states, and you announced a national plan, but then you gave money only to the public sector. You gave to government, the state, to the public sector. So it was a national plan in name only, actually. And the whole point of abolishing the Planning Commission by the current Prime Minister in 2014 when he came in, and replacing it by NITI Aayog, was several-fold, but one of them was to a clear perception of the Prime Minister that we must move from centralized top-down for themselves. They must plan in detail, not at this broad level. They must, every state, district, block must have a plan. I will tell you the overall setting, I'll come back to that, which is the vision. Private sector, NGOs, so on. Now, we know from economic theory, when you go from centralized to decentralized, you often have a coordination problem. So it's critical in public infrastructure. And therefore, a Gati Shakti platform was placed in place. So you might ask, if you decentralize, what is the context? Well, that is the major part of that change, is to move from instructions to vision. So envisioning, the Prime Minister has spelled out his vision in many talks across the country. And it's part of our job at NITI to give it a somewhat more concrete shape. He's a political person who knows the country, the people. It's our job as economists, as thinkers or whatever, to give it a concrete shape. And the second part of it was to move from excessive focus on expenditure to policy planning. So that is very important. And that's where, in a way, much of the discussion today hopefully will occur, is the issue of policy and institutional reform. And the basic idea is to create the environment for job creators and for growth in the private sector. So clearly, in that sense, what you are trying to do, as far as I've understood, is quite relevant, okay? Because the idea is you must have a vision for whatever you're thinking, whether you're thinking of metals or MSMEs or West Asia. You must have a vision of India and your organization in that future, in that 2047, the Viksit Bharat that we are thinking of. Incidentally, if any of you, we really believe in decentralization, so we actually don't have a formal huge document on the vision for India, but I have my own document. This is the decentralization, which is on the planning, on the NITI Aayog working paper website, which is titled Viksit Bharat something something, and you can see it. Let me move from there to MSMEs. Now, I have been dealing with some of these issues for 50 years. So first I'm going to tell you a little bit about the traditional problems and then raise some neglected issues of MSMEs. There are two issues which I've been hearing for maybe 3 decades, for 4 decades. So let me say something about that and hope you have something new to say on those matters. One is the complaint which I've heard, as I said, for 30 years, 50 years, that MSMEs don't get enough credit. Okay. So what is new? What is about credit? I actually wrote a huge paper 50 years ago when I worked in the World Bank on credit. And the principal problem of credit is asymmetric information. It's about information. Now, the putting in place of the GST system actually creates a big channel for creating the information that creditors, the people who give you credit, need for giving you that credit. And in some sense, the tax reform also come into the picture. So we've done income tax reform, GST simplification. Now, nothing is perfect. But the way I look at it after 50 years of having been in the reform game, that I take whatever I can get. I have been, to give you one example, I had in 1999 during Mr. Vajpayee's time, Dr. Kelkar, who was the secretary, DA at that time, NFS, asked me, okay, tell me what we should do in the next 10 years. So I wrote a big volume. And I can say that 20 years later, or maybe 30 years later, 99% of those things have been done. That's how long it takes. Okay? So now I take whatever comes. So I don't think either the income tax reform, the GST is perfect, but I think it's a great start. And hopefully the finance minister has promised us, import duty reform, etc. Some of that will also happen. But the key point here relating to MSMEs is that I envision an integrated system which results in virtually automatic credit for MSMEs. So if you're part of that structure, then virtually every information is there. And there should be automatic. It should be like AI. You should get automatic credit. Again, I am trying to give you a vision, something to stimulate you, and maybe you'll think of other ideas. The second problem I've always heard is that demand problem. Okay, these are two kind of perennials. So again, the platforms like GOM, GEM, EGOM, etc. But of course now a host of private ones are coming in. So I went to a small town, actually it happened in both Haryana and Punjab, and I met the MSMEs there. And so I asked them, they were complaining about demand. So I said, are you familiar with this EGOM and other platforms? Are you registered? And not one person in that group, which was talking to me at least, even knew about it. Okay? So I asked them, what do you do? So I was surprised, I didn't know. They said we all use WhatsApp. So there's a platform on WhatsApp which I was not familiar with, frankly, which they are using. My point here is not specific platforms, but we are creating marketplaces, okay, digital marketplaces. These are what the platforms are. Again, I have come across startups. This not relate, well, it does to MSMEs in a way. We've often talked about the fact that there is no cold chain. Okay, so you expect government to do everything. Well, it turns out there are startups which are creating this cold chain on a digital platform. So they are bringing together cold storages, users, logistics companies, and it's being created by the private sector. So that's what I'm trying to say, is the role of the government to create the conditions, okay, in which the private sector can flourish. The third, fourth, final point I want to make, which has several sub-points, and that is on kind of neglected subsectors of MSMEs. I'm going to make 4 points here. One of them is micro, I used to call it micro, but I'm told the better term is nano enterprises. What the heck are these? So I'm working on a paper on employment, which one of the very interesting results, which is already there. Hopefully this paper will be out in a month or two. You know, in labor, in PLFS, we divide the workforce into 3 categories: casual labor, regular formal employees, and self-employed. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have any idea what are the proportions of these workers? Pick any of these 3 categories and take a guess. It's a question for you. Anybody?
Casual would be around 50 to 60%.
Okay.
Because shadow labor.
हाँ बस बताइए, नंबर बताइए, औरों को बोलने दें. Thank you. Or anybody else?
Casual and self would be like 75%.
No, self or what? You have to be separate. See, any one of those you pick.
Yes, I would say another 30% what you said.
Would
which
be
would be self.
Self-employed. You said 60
Casual labor. Shadow
is
labor.
how much?
60%.
60% and 30%, right? Anybody else? Final. What will be 90? Which one? Okay. So we have 90 casual, 60 casual, supporting 60, and 30 self-employed. So formal sector, regular employees. This is not formal sector. This is the PLF's definition of regular wage and employee. That includes my maid, who has been a regular employee for maybe 50 years. Okay, she gets a regular salary. That is included there. I'm just trying to be precise. So that's 19% of the workforce is regular workers. The casual labor is about 29%. Okay, only. So you are all wrong. It's the self-employed. 58% of the workers are self-employed. This is the real MSME. Nano enterprises, 1-person enterprises, totally neglected. I have a working paper on which is already out. It's on the work. I encourage you. I'm doing it not for self-engrandagement, but we don't look at data and analysis. I'm sorry to say this. Please look at that paper if you are interested in employment, because nobody thinks of it. How will you get employment? There's 58% of the workforce are nano entrepreneurs. You have to address the skilling of those nano enterprises. That's what I've done in this paper. Okay? You have to skill those people. That is how productivity will increase. That's how their income will increase. What we call wages of the self-employed, it's actually income, right? It's average income per hour or whatever, per year or whatever you want to call it. That is what is wages actually we talk about. It's the income of the self-employed. And the only way to increase that is by giving them skills. And for creating this environment, these markets, the platforms, the markets. So that is one neglected part of the MSMEs. The second one, in my view, is exporting units. Let me explain why. Not export sector. exporting units. Huge difference. Okay. We all talk about exports, export sector, but we are still stuck in that old framework of foreign exchange. It is not any more long time, since the 91 reforms I was involved, we did the customs reform. It's not about foreign exchange. We did the new Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA. Okay. Since then, it's not about foreign exchange. Okay, so what is it about? So not the export sector, the exporter. So I have gone and met at least 10 exporters across the country, 10 specific places. Of course, I meet a few in each place. They are the most dynamic part of the economy. Incredible people I have met. Okay. One exporter, he exports 90% of his items which compete with Italy and make these artificial granite slabs. Another one makes these fancy looking pens, I don't even know what you call it, but he has indigenized every machine in his factory. Again, he exports 70% or something of his stuff. These are the dynamic guys out there. We pay no attention to them. They are not called for any meeting. They don't participate in any policy. Nothing. Neglected sector. Okay. What do they need? It's the same thing. They say, I'm going to run. The one I met on handicrafts and thing. He said, I'm going to run out of skilled people. I'm growing so fast. I can see a time. I said, do you have any skilling problems? He said, no. But I'm looking 5 years ahead. Not looking. We are not looking at the skilling. We are not looking at the dynamic MSMEs. Okay. Fourth one. The medium sector. Okay. They are the ones just below the corporates. They are capable of high quality, export quality, import and export competition both. Again, we have neglected them. I'll make a little plug. We've recently done a study on this sector, that what are the constraints on this. But what I'm trying to do here is to stimulate your way of thinking and looking. Okay, it's not the specific thing. They don't matter. It's the vision. You must think more. You must discuss. You must study and develop some little vision. Does not matter. Okay, we must participate. Just to give you a slightly different example, going to complete extreme, going down into the village level. Okay, that little teacher out there can have a vision of how to educate schools. It's not difficult actually. 50% of primary school completers, not just in India, but for our per capita level. So it's not a denigration of India. They cannot read. They passed primary school. They cannot read. 50%. Okay, this is true of this category, per capita income where we are. So nothing against India. But simple things on the ground, we have, one hears about thinking, we don't teach how to think. Where does thinking start? It starts with observation. Villages have so much things to observe. They can go out and observe leaves. They can go. We do not think like that. We all think it's a syllabus which I don't know from where it has come, but it has come. We just teach that. What is thinking? It's observation and wonder. It's questioning. I give the simple example of leaves. I mean, they could just go out and say, "Ye light green leaf hai, ye hari leaf hai, ye is stucky." Just observing and thinking, "Ye kyun hai? Why is this leaf different from that?" Okay. Final point. Deep tech startups. They are the future. The Honorable Prime Minister, he has given many new ideas, and one of them was about startups. He realized very quickly, before me, I must admit, I don't know about other people, that startups are the future of MSMEs. Okay. So again, I'm going to end with a little inspiration. I hope at least I've been inspirational, if nothing else. I started part of my journey, there is all this thing about supply chains, right? PLI, supply chains, all that. And we are going to speak on Friday. If people are interested, you can tell them. So I visited a number, I don't want to name them, the state or the company. I visited a number of these companies to see what is actually happening. You read in the newspaper, etc. And one company, one used to be jealous of China. I'm going to give you 2 points and then stop. Jealous of China. One used to hear a company goes in there and in 12 months they have started production. Everything is given to them. Electricity, this, that and the other. This I've been hearing for 20 years at least. So this company, from the day they were given the land, they were handed over the piece of land out there somewhere. Within 18 months they had produced their first item. I won't name the item, you know what the item is. I've already hinted PLI, supply chains, but I can't name the company, so I won't tell you. So 18 months, I was bowled over, but I'm happy. Obviously I'm happy, right? There's something I could not have imagined 20, 30 years ago. I told you I've been in the business for 50 years. The second part is related. It's all on the same example, but there are 3 elements of it. So the second part of it is that they are already starting the backward integration. Okay. They are thinking, how can we become even more competitive? And one of the ways you can do it is to have your input closer to you. If you have to keep importing it from country X, again you know what that country X is, then that is more costly. It adds maybe 10-15% to the cost. So it's economically viable. So again, we have to create, that's me, we have to create the conditions in which they can do that, right? But it depends on the companies. This company went out and looked for SME. That's where the deep tech startup comes in. Okay? So there are some things you need to change, like a tool, right? If you have a stamping tool that wears out. I'm just giving you an example. So you need to replace it every month, and so more, if it comes from further away, more costly it will be. So they, after a big search, that's where the company comes in. After a search, they identified a company which could do it. Okay? They thought it will take a year or so, okay, for that company to do it. So they called them for a discussion, and the company asked them, when do you need it? They said, at latest by 12 months, but if you can, you will be happy if you do it in 9 months. That fellow promised 6 months and he delivered in 4 months. These are the kinds of companies which are out there. These are the deep tech startups. Okay? They are the future of India, actually. Thank you.